tune in every Wednesday night right here on Facebook, and you can also catch us live on YouTube. Follow me across all social media, YouTube, at The Rockpile Show on Twitter, at rcorgliano23 on Instagram, and you can also follow me on LinkedIn. I want to make sure I thank Heath Waterman last week for coming on. He was a second-time guest here on The Rockpile. Heath ended last week with about 2,200 views, so he was great. I kind of feel like I wrapped up the martial arts. I spent pretty much the full month with Dave Bruce, Heath Waterman, and Vicky Guillen as well. They were all fantastic to speak to. Tonight's guest has a special meaning, place in my heart. We'll be talking to Dave Sbaraglia here in just a moment. We're going to talk about the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. I'm fortunate enough to know a lot of the coaches in the Rome Sports Hall of Fame, but two special ones. My sister was a 2017 inductee, and my dad was a 2009 inductee into the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. So without further ado, let's see if I can get Dave in the program here. We were just chatting a little bit before coming on, so let's see. There he is. I could see you now, Dave. How are you?
Good, Rock. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for taking the time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. So I told you last night, I keep telling everybody the Rome Sports Hall of Fame is the best kept secret in all of New York State. And you said Rome, but I think it's New York State. There's nothing like it.
Well, interestingly enough, we are the only Sports Hall of Fame and museum in the state of New York. So Ruth always referred to it as the best kept secret. I refer to it as that. We also refer to it affectionately as the house that Romans built, because it was built by citizens of Rome. People who might have been born in a different state came in and coached or had something to do with Rome. So we're very lucky to have it. As we say, it is the best kept secret. We're working diligently on trying to increase the participation and getting people in there. Unfortunately, this has been a crazy year with the COVID and everything. So kind of threw our plans totally awry.
And Dave, when I started doing my radio show, I had a gentleman that lived in Sequoia, and he was doing the show with me on Saturday mornings. And I'll never forget, he said to me, he goes, the amount of legendary coaches and athletes that have come through Rome is unbelievable. And when I sit back and I was looking last night at all the names that are in there, I said, wow, we've been fortunate. I've been fortunate enough. I played for a lot of those coaches, and we'll talk about some of those coaches here in a little bit. But I said to myself, I had a wow moment last night to say, this thing really is a special place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting that I've been involved for probably around 15 years. I started in 2000.
See if we can get Dave. We might have lost Dave on his end. We'll see if we can get him.
Oh, there. 13 years down to Rome National Little League. I was looking for something else to put my attention and my effort to. Lo and behold, 2 weeks later, a letter comes in the mail. Congratulations, you have now been nominated to the board of directors at the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. So, and Ruth Demers told me it's a life sentence, and here I am 15 years later, and I'm still on and still enjoying every moment of it. So.
And Dave, I want to make sure, I wanted to mention Ruth Demers, and
yes.
Ruth passed away, God rest her soul, in 2016. Yes. But she spent 27 years in the position that you're in. How much of an impact did Ruth have on you?
A big impact. She was probably, regarding the Hall of Fame, she was my mentor. We worked very well together. There was times she was not easy to get along with, because she was pretty steadfast in when she decided something, that was it. But again, we had a great relationship. We got together well. I can remember one time I think I was president. I've been executive director for 2 years now. I think I was president for about 5 years, which I only should have been president for 1 or 2. And I told her I'm thinking about stepping down as president and just becoming a board member. And I can remember sitting in her house across her desk. She put her hand on mine and says, "You're not going anyplace. You're staying right where you are." So, And there anybody that knows Ruth, God bless her. You never said no to her.
No, she was a tough lady to say no to,
Yes,
but
she was.
she had a heart of
She was
gold. I
she
know
was a
that.
saint. And like I say, if it wasn't for Ruth Demers, I always say she is the glue that held us together and basically brought that hall to where it is. Now it's our responsibility to try and take it to the next step. And again, those people who came before me, I mean, there's a lot of people that have been on the board over the years. As we were talking last night, my late father was on the board back in the early 80s. So I'm following in his footsteps like I did when he was president of Rome American Little League. I became president of Rome National. That was our field. And it's funny how, you and your dad in coaching, we follow in the footsteps of our parents. Yeah. It's just an amazing thing.
So, Dave, let's start for the people tuning in tonight that may not know much about the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. Can you talk to us a little bit about the history of it to start?
Yes. Years ago, Carl Eilenberg, former mayor, Bill Coughlin, who was the athletic director for the Rome City School District, were runners, and they used to run every night. And as they were running, they came up with the idea that, geez, Rome should have a place where we can honor athletes. So they came up with the concept of the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. In addition to them, Ellie Bruce, who is still a board member for many, many years, got involved with them. And I think Carl was the mayor at that time, if I remember. And where the codes enforcement office was an empty annex portion. So in 1976, Carl convinced the city and the council to let the Sports Hall of Fame use that area to start putting some of the artifacts they had in there. We moved from there in '89. The building went up at the Erie Canal Village. We now own the building, and we also own the land. We are a nonprofit institution. We don't receive any money from any of the governments. Once in a while, we get a state grant, but that's pretty much out of the question. Jerry Farini has helped us out a couple times with some county grants, but the majority of our income is from donations, bequests, fundraisers that we do, sports clinics that we may do, things of that nature. And I really want to thank the people over the years who have contributed, the inductees. Usually when a person gets inducted, it's not uncommon for the family to make a donation to the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. We have a lot of in memory of or in honor of donations. We also have a what's called a corporate sponsorship for businesses, and there's several levels. There's the gold level, which is $500. The silver is $350, and the bronze is $195. That will get them, depending on the level, it'll get them tickets to the banquet, tickets to the golf tournament. They're published in our program. They're published on our website. We encourage the people to do business with those businesses that help us. And I really want to thank a lot of them, like Vicki Gillen from Bailey's Karate, Greg Ellinger from Greg Ellinger Collision. They've been with us for years. I mean, every year I send out the letter, they send the check, and we're so appreciative of those people and everyone that contributes.
Well, I always say, Rome is a special place. I was away from Rome. I was in Ohio for a little while, and then I met my wife out there, and we moved back here. And all the business owners that I have had on this show in the past couple months, one of the biggest things that everybody has said is, if it wasn't for this community and everybody pitching in and helping out and the support, I don't know where a lot of the business owners would be. But especially for the nonprofit places, yes. That's one of the things I always say. This community comes together in the toughest times, and
absolutely,
it's fantastic. You can't say enough positive about it.
Yeah, and the funny part is that throughout the years and through my affiliation with baseball, I've come to know a lot of the businesses, and I feel sorry for some of these businesses because they're dwindling in the city, and they get hit. I can't tell you how many times for donations. So a lot of them, because I'm sure you have through Bernie Bust, you have to set up a budget. And when the budget's gone, it's gone. It depends on when your request goes in. But as you say, when push comes to shove, the Rome community comes together thank God for the business people and their generosity towards everybody.
And Dave, talk to us about being a nonprofit. I know you guys had shut down, obviously, like a lot of these businesses with the whole COVID impact. But
Yes.
talk to us, being a nonprofit, it affects you as well. Talk to us about that COVID impact too, if you can.
COVID impact has really put a financial strain on us this year. We were lucky that we had some money in our treasury that we could afford to close and still pay our bills. We have insurance, we have workman's comp, we have utilities every month. Our budget is probably somewhere in the $35,000 to $40,000 area every year. And again, being a nonprofit, we're scraping for every nickel and dime that we can get. We lost a significant amount of money by having to cancel our annual golf tournament. That usually brings in anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000, depending on the amount of players. For example, 2 years ago, when we had it, we honored our late president, Tom Berry, who passed away unexpectedly. And we had, I believe, 22 teams, and that was our most successful tournament, both financially and as a tournament. So big cut in finances there. We closed the museum because we felt that was the best thing to do for the public and everybody else, so we don't have people coming in. The donations aren't rolling in like they normally do. We also had to cancel our induction. And what we've done is we've chosen a 2020 class, but we opted to put that class in 2021. And that should be, I believe, it's going to be the first Sunday in August. It's always the day after the Honor America Days parade. I believe this year, or 2021, it'll fall on August 1st. So it's been a rough year, but we're getting through it. We're looking forward to next year. I am, definitely. Hopefully we'll get more aggressive in our marketing plan so we can get more people through the door and make more people aware of what we have there. As you say, it's a treasure trove of sports from Rome. Some things go back into the 1800s. I mean, we have a wooden bowling ball. Who would bowl with a wooden bowling ball?
Right.
We have Virgil Gardner, who played for RFA back in, I think it was the 20s or the 30s. We have his original football equipment. And when you look at that and what you played with or what they're playing with today, you'd say, those guys were crazy. I mean, a leather helmet, no face mask.
Yep.
Cloth type pants and leather shoulder pads. I mean, they were definitely Iron Men. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, much different today, right?
Yep. We have an Olympic torch from, I believe it was 1998 that was carried through Rome. I think the last person that carried it was the late Lenny Martin.
Okay.
We have a display. There was 4 Olympians from the city of Rome, believe it or not. We had late coach Don Gary, who played on the 48.
Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't know that.
Tony Washington was an Olympian, and I have it written down here, 1992 Barcelona, discus. Yep. 2 other ones that are probably not that well known to a lot of people. Jim Atkinson was a bobsled in the 1952 Oslo Olympics.
Oh, wow.
And John Preston Halstead, 1908 in the 800-meter track race in London.
Wow.
So Little Rome, New York.
Yeah, I did not know that one.
You know,
wow.
who would imagine? Then we can go on about Richie Evans, 9-time national NASCAR modified champion. Jerry Cook, 6 times. Those 2 gentlemen kept that trophy in Rome 15 years consecutively. We're lucky to have, we have one of Richie's cars that we purchased many years ago. 2 years ago, we were lucky enough to get a vehicle from Jerry that's on loan. I told him, I said, possession's 9/10 of the law, so you're not getting that car back. But Richie's car seems to be probably the #1 display among most people because there's a lot of race fans. I mean, if you go to Ohio and they say, where are you from, Rock? And you say, Rome, New York, they say, do you know Richie Evans? So that's, he was very well known. Also in the racing wing, we have a power boat from Dave Packer, who was a 12-time national champion. That pretty much takes care of the racing wing. And we have oh God, trophies and memorabilia from all three of those gentlemen. It's just unbelievable the things we have.
And Dave, there's been a couple of people have asked questions. I got one of them tonight, but I had one send me an email today about all the memorabilia that's in there. Obviously, is donated.
Yes.
How tough has it been? I mean, are you guys always constantly reaching out to people, or are people reaching out to you guys?
Actually, it's people reaching out to us, and it's funny you should mention that because we just this year enacted a new way of doing things, because a lot of times it turned out, and I hate to use the term, but we were turning into a dumping ground for people. They were just dropping stuff off to us, and then you have to figure out the significance of the items. So what we did this year is we will accept things, but it goes before 3 or 4 people who will determine the historic value of it and if it's something we want to keep. If not, we'll notify you, and you have 30 days in order to come and pick it up. Otherwise, it's at our discretion how to dispose of it. We have so many things that we can't display everything at once. We're in the process of a 5-year plan right now. We're starting to go through. I have a storage building that has items in it. I had items that were tucked behind some of the display cases that we've brought out. So we're trying to change the displays around a little bit and change the inside features of the display. We may be moving some of the cases also. It's going to be a big, big job. I don't know if we'll be able to have it done before we open next year, but like I say, it is part of the 5-year plan because we do have so many artifacts there. It's unbelievable.
And Dave, another question that came in was, has there ever been any thought? I know it takes a lot of work and the building's fantastic. Some people have asked, is there any thought about possibly centralizing the building more within Rome versus where it's at now out by the Erie Canal? Has there ever been any thought to centralize it a little bit more?
We have talked about that. It has been brought up many, many times by Romans. You need to be someplace else because you're too far out. My gut feeling is that should we move it to a more central location, I really can't tell you if that would increase our foot traffic.
Right.
Because again, we are specific to Rome, New York. We're not like the National Baseball Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, or the Basketball Hall of Fame. I mean, like I say, we own the land, we own the building. The Erie Canal Village, thank God. One of the owners, Rick Rios, has been working diligently on that, and there are plans to possibly open that back up again next year. In fact, I was down the hall last week one day, and I heard a train, and I looked out the door, and it was the train at the Erie Canal Village. They were running it back and forth on the tracks. So they've been doing a lot of maintenance work, and that should help our attendance also, because that's how we originally started. We got the land loaned to us from the city because of the Erie Canal Village would be the draw to bring people into the Sports Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, with the demise of the village, I guess our attendance went down at that point too. So we're constantly working on marketing. That's the biggest thing we need to do is we need to market it to get people in there. We're only open for a short time, unfortunately, but we have talked about possibly staying open longer. We normally open the Wednesday of Memorial Day weekend, and we close Labor Day weekend. So it's a short period, for people to get in there. My hope is that we can open a little bit longer, or possibly stay open all year long. Again, it's comes down to finances. Somebody's got to be there, whether it's a volunteer or we normally have an intern in the summer, a college intern that does a lot of our data for us and also will give tours and things. I mean, I'm there every day, but I'm not there all day long.
Sure.
Somebody has to be there during, our 10 to 5 hours, things of that nature. So
I got a couple comments. Pat Pasalacqua. Pat's a friend of mine. Always the best guest on the show. Thanks, Pat. I appreciate that. I also have Lisa. Lisa watches and catches most of the shows. I don't think she's missed any yet. Says it's located in Rome, New London Road, right in front of Erie Canal Village. That is correct, yeah, Lisa. We are
right after the Erie Canal Village. In fact, the picture that you have up, that is actually an older picture. We've since resided the building.
Yep.
It's a It's a gray. We put a new roof on. We put new siding, new windows, new doors, a security system. We just finished up putting in a complete climate control system for those people who have been to our induction ceremonies. And it's been 300 degrees in there. Well, now you're probably going to tell me to turn the air conditioning down at the next one. I'm so happy that we finally did that. That's something Ruth wanted to do for many years. Money was always an object, and we were able to come up with some of it, thanks to one of our inductees who made a very generous contribution and has issued a challenge to other inductees that they should also make a donation. But that the inductees will be getting a letter. I don't know exactly when that's going out, but it's called the Inductee Challenge, and we're asking them, listen, so-and-so put up this much money, and he's issued a challenge to you. And if they're able to donate, that would be great. It was a significant amount of money. It was almost $32,000 just to do that. We have a heating and air conditioning and a humidification system. And we definitely needed the humidification because we wouldn't have the heat on in the winter naturally when we're closed, and you've got all those artifacts in there, and between the cold and the hot temperatures in the summer, it started to take its toll on some of the artifacts. So in an effort to protect them, we had to do what we had to do at that point. So
I had a couple more comments. Chuck Heburn says, great show. Remember the people from 1970. We had a great ball team.
Yep. Went to school with Chuck up to probably Staley. I went to Rome Catholic. Chuck was at RFA, but I remember playing ball against Chuck in Little League. How you doing, Chuck?
And then Carl Manganero says, great place to show all the great athletes from Rome. I can't agree with that anymore, Carl.
Absolutely. Carl is our webmaster. He designed our website, which is www.romesportshalloffame.com. There is another website out there that is our older one, but Carl has taken this one to another level. And thank God, if I want to make a change, I shoot him an email, and within an hour or two, he says done, and it's on there. So it is a work in progress, just so everybody knows. But you can go on there. You can go through the inductees year by year. There's a nomination process on there also.
So, Dave, talk to us a little bit about that. I feel like you got my agenda in front of you. As you're going through stuff, I'm checking them off my list. But let's talk about the nomination process. I think people get a little bit mixed up about that. So maybe go into details on that if you can.
Yes. On the nomination, I'm just letting my dog in because she's scraping at the door here. On the nomination process, what happens is I get questioned every year, especially after we announce the class. So what about so-and-so? Has he been, what about, like I said to you earlier, what about Rocky Corglano? Has he been nominated? And Bill Fleet and Todd Dewan from the Sentinel are the co-chairmen of our selection committee. So I usually get a hold of Fleeter and I say, hey, by the way, do we have a nomination on Rocky Corglano? No, we don't. Okay, so now my job is I'll get back to that person and say, we don't have a nomination, and this is how it works. We have a form. I don't know if you can see this.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. And this form has to be filled out, but not only that form, which is available off our website or through the Recreation Department's website, you can download that form, is the person who's doing the nominating has to supply all the data. You've got to give us the facts. Okay, Rocky was a great quarterback in high school. He played football at Fordham. He's currently the vice president of operations at Bernie Bus. He has a radio show, this and that. All the contributions, all the data, all the athleticism that makes that person seem worthy to come in. That goes to the selection committee. There's probably 7 or 8 of them. They review all that, and then they make the choices and bring the choices back to the board. You only have to be nominated once. And I know there's a lot of them that have questioned me about, well, what about so-and-so? And yes, we have the nomination. Our nominating committee does a great job. It's a very tough thing to do because there are so many people deserving to be in there. And how do you want to say it? There's a lot of the old timers that have passed away that probably should be in there. And now we're up into, I'm guessing, probably the 80s, somewhere around there. And some of these people got left out at one point or another. I apologize to people for that, but I would love to put everybody in that's nominated, but they have to have, as Carl Eilenberg always said, it's a lifetime of excellence.
And Dave, when you talk about, one of the questions I wanted to ask you too, because this has come up over the years. So you have the nomination process, but what's the criteria? Do you have to meet a certain criteria? Do you have to be out of sports for so long?
I will read you the criteria right off the form. In order for an individual to be nominated to the City of Rome Sports Hall of Fame, he or she must either have been from the City of Rome or have a long-term association with the area to be considered hometown and commonly associated with Rome by the general public. He or she must also meet one of the following criteria: is or was an outstanding athlete in high school, college, amateur, or professional sports; is or was a coach or manager who has made a significant contribution in sports. We have a new category that's named contributor. That is an individual whose efforts and talents provided leadership, administration, organization, direction, inspiration, positive contributions, and motivation in furtherance of sports programs, teams, and athletes. We want to recognize those people with a strong connection to Rome who have made significant and noteworthy contributions to the furtherance of athletics, such as athletes, coaches, managers, administrators, contributors of time, support, and talent. And I'll also read you our mission statement, which says, in our mission statement, the Rome Sports Hall of Fame pledges to honor the pursuit of athletic excellence, recognize those who have excelled, preserve Rome's rich athletic heritage, and provide you with a memorable experience. So basically, that's how it's done. Like I say, I can't emphasize enough that you have to provide information. We've had some great nominations where they put binders together of things going back to high school. They've gone to the nominee's college and gone to the sports information director and got the college information, what they've done with their life afterwards. So that part makes it easier for the nominating committee because we don't really have the time to go back and research a lot of this stuff. And most of the people on the nominating committee, when these athletes come up, somebody knows them. You've got Bill Fleet, you've got Coach Evans, you've got Coach Linda Harjung. You've got people who've been in the sports that know a lot of this. So, like I say, that's the way to do it. It's on our website. You can download it. You can also download it from the Recreation Department website, fill it out, put it together. You can mail it to the Recreation Department. Ryan Hickey usually ends up receiving them, and then Bill or I will pick them up and I'll get them to Bill. We also have a nominating form for the Bill Coughlin Award. Coach Coughlin, who was the director of athletics, as I previously mentioned, retired, and 3 months later, unfortunately, he was killed by a drunk driver in Michigan while he was practicing for the Boston Marathon. So in his honor, we have what's called the Bill Coughlin Memorial. That honors athletes whose light shone too briefly. We have around 42 or 43 enshrinees in there right now. It's a very, very tough ceremony for me because unfortunately it means that somebody passed away in order to honor them. Sometimes it's tough for the family. The family may not want to do it, or they want to do it several years later. But what I've seen in the past is that when we do it, the look on the family's face and the gratefulness that we have honored their child with this award means the world to them. And that's permanent also. And there's a nomination form for that also that's on our website. Again, same thing. Fill it out, put in the information. Could be a high schooler, could be a college student, or may have graduated from college and met an unfortunate demise. That's one like I say, I'm not real keen on doing every year, but I do it because I think they deserve it. But again, I feel bad that they've lost a child, and that's the reason why we do it. Speaking about Bill Coughlin, let's go into, is coaching next on your agenda?
It's there. The only thing I was gonna before we go in that, I just want to ask you one other thing because
Sure.
I know you had said you visited the Football Hall of Fame, and
Yes.
I'm sure you've probably been out to Cooperstown too, and
Yes.
I'm sure when you go, you might look at it differently, being involved in the Rome Sports Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
One of the nomination things for both the football and baseball is you can only be eligible for so many years, and then your name drops off the ballot. So if somebody if somebody nominated me, and I'm not voted in within, I don't know, a certain amount of years, is there a time limit for when you just say, ah, okay, it's been so long, we got to get rid of that one?
Absolutely not. No, we still retain no. We're also receiving new ones at the same time. So no, there is no time limit on it.
Well, we just lost Dave, but we'll see if we can get Dave back on. But he was going through the criteria, and that's been a question I know that has come up over the years. I mean, living in Rome, being from Rome, what's the selection process, the nomination process? What's the criteria? Over the years, people have said the criteria has changed. So I'm glad Dave was able to kind of highlight that. And like the Baseball Hall of Fame, the Football Hall of Fame, you could stay on the ballot for X amount of years, and then you fall off the ballot. So that's good information. And I know he was going to get into the coaches piece, and there's so many coaches. And Lisa was asking, is there anybody from the Rome Hall of Fame that's been in college or professional sports like football and baseball? Lisa, to answer that question, yes, we have a lot of professional athletes that have played professional sports, that have played big time college sports. So if you have not been there, I highly, highly encourage you get a chance and take a trip down by the Erie Canal Village and take a walk through. I'm always wowed when I walk in there. As I said, I've been blessed. The picture I have up on the screen, my dad and my sister have both been inducted into the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. So that's special to me. And, Ruth Demers, as we were talking about earlier in the program, when people say Rome, the Sports Hall of Fame is the house that the Romans built, I think a lot of people would say it's the house that Ruth Demers built because of her long time. I think it was 24 years she spent as the executive director at the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. So that's special. And I think the other thing, too, is you can go right on the webpage. I'll make sure that I share that webpage as well tonight, and I'll make sure I share it throughout the week. If you have any questions or anything, you can go right to it. I think it'd be great if they can keep it open a little bit longer, but again, it's a nonprofit, so you have to have somebody. They're mainly volunteers that would be there to keep the doors open. We were going through, and I know Dave's gonna jump back in, but we were going through legendary coaches. I was extremely fortunate to be able to play for a lot of those coaches. In football, of course, I played for Tom Hoke and Don Bruce and Bob Ryan, Tom Myslinski, of course. Baseball, Fita Costi that I played for, and basketball, of course, Coach Evans. My uncle Paul Ady's in there. I call him, he's like a dad to me, Coach Mike Ady, Jimmy Kenny. So there's so many names that are in that Rome Sports Hall of Fame. When you walk in there and you see the different exhibits that are actually in there, you're like, wow, we have this in Rome? And we do. That's why I said I think it's the best kept secret in Rome. If you have not been there and you see it, it'll wow you. Let's put it to you that way. Let me bring some comments over. Dave is just getting logged back in. Let me just make sure I tell him. Let's see here. Dave is coming back on. My sister says, definitely a wonderful place to have in Rome. It's an honor to be part of it. Now to be on the committee, I get to see what goes into running the Hall of Fame. Lots and lots of time devoted. So many memorable artifacts throughout the facility. People definitely need to check it out when it's up and running again. And I can't agree with you more, Shan. And I know once you're on the committee, you get to see what goes on behind the scenes. And it's a tough job. As Dave said, people can walk up to you and say, well, how come he's not in the Hall of Fame, or how come she's not in the Hall of Fame? There's a process. You gotta follow the process. Stacy says, thanks for all you're doing, Dave. Stacy, I'll let Dave know that. I think he was having some computer issues. So hopefully we'll get Dave to log back on here in just a few moments. But if you have any questions, you have any comments, put them in the comment box. If you're listening and watching on YouTube, you can put the comments in there as well, and those comments will feed over here to me. Next week on the Rock Pile, I'll be talking to Douglas Jonathan Leonard. He is one of the owners of the Whisk Bacon Company down in Franklin Square. Great place to eat, great sandwiches, great baked goods. I was just there this past week for work, and Doug took great care of me. So he'll be on next week. I'm booking right now into November. I'm excited. I'm going to be having on a former teammate, friend of mine, Eddie the Truck Gordon. Eddie was the MMA winner for The Ultimate Fighter. So he'll be on with me in November. I'll also have on the new bar up on 233 that used to be the old Seymour's Diner. It's 233. They will join me as well for the month of October. So if you're interested, make sure to shoot me a message. Let's see if we can get Dave back on. I think he's just tuning in now. There's Dave. I can see you.
Okay.
There you are. That's
Something
okay.
must have happened to my internet connection.
I was just rambling on, so people probably got tired of me rambling on. But I had a couple comments.
I saw your sister's
My sister made a comment. Stacy made a comment. Yep. And then I just had on here now. Yep. Let me just pull it up. Kelly says Dave's a great guy. Thanks, Kelly. But Dave, we were going into the coaches piece, and I started telling everybody I was very fortunate in my career to play for a lot of those coaches. Just in football, of course, the Tom Hoax, the Don Bruces, the Bob Ryans, the Tom Myslinskis. Baseball, the late Billy Mays, or the great Billy Mays. Sorry, Billy Vincey over at Franklin Field. Fita Costi. The Coach Evans and Bass. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But how special are the coaches we have in there?
Oh, my God. I'm still amazed at the amount of talent and coaching that the city of Rome has had over the years. I mean, we've been fortunate. We've had guys who have dedicated their careers and their lives. Coach Evans is a perfect example. I mean, what he's done for athletics in Rome and kids. And I'm going to give you a quote from one of his former basketball players, but I'm not going to say who it is. And every time I see him, he tells me, if it wasn't for Coach Evans, I would have ended up in prison. That tells me a lot. I've heard stories about him taking kids in who needs new sneakers. He would buy them for them. He was tough. There's no doubt about it. Some parents don't agree with me because, when we played, these coaches, they got the best out of you. If they had to yell at you, they yelled at you. Your parents didn't complain because you listened to your coach. That's the way you were brought up. When your coach says do this, you do that. Buddy's the type of guy that he did that because he saw something in you. And he was trying to get the best out of you, and he did. Out of most of his athletes, he got the best. Probably one of the most well-respected coaches in Rome. Little side story. 2 years ago, he had an 80th birthday at DiMattio's, and I still kid him. I didn't get an invitation to that coach, by the way. I don't know if you're familiar with Bob Vero, who lives out in Canton, Ohio, was one of Coach's basketball players back in the 70s.
Yep. Bob
drove from Canton to be at that party and then drove back to Canton the next day. Now, if that's not respect and love, I don't know what is.
One of the things about Coach Evans, I mean, Coach Evans has been a big part of my family's life for a long time. Yes. I was fortunate enough. I didn't get a chance to play for Coach Evans in basketball. I wish I did. I played for him in JV baseball. And one of the things with Coach Evans, even when I got into coaching at a young age, there was always a card in the mail, with a note on him. And but even when I was coaching, he was the first one to send me a card. My sister and I got letters and cards and just inspirational things. And I was fortunate enough. I used to ride with him out to the 5-star camp and then Hamilton College basketball camps. And I'll say this, I will agree with you. You know, the Coach Hoax and the Coach Evans and the Coach Bruce and the Coach Mises and some of those guys were really tough. But I'll tell you what, as a former athlete here, we all respected the hell out of those guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, probably because we were scared to make a mistake, but they brought the best out of you, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, that they did. Just a great group of guys when you look back. And I think a lot of that was due to Charlie Dane, who was the athletic director. He brought a lot of these coaches in and gave them their start. And like I say, we have a lot of them that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame, as well as they should be. I mean, probably the biggest thing, and you'll know this being a former coach, is that when you walk down the street and you run into one of your former students that you had 5, 10, 15 years ago, and he still calls you coach, that's a sign of respect.
Sure.
And that, you know, I can still run into kids from Little League that I coached in minor league who call me coach. And to me, that's, you know, that's very heartwarming when they do that. I'm honored that they would respect me that much. I tried to be fair with everybody, no politics involved and everything. But like I say, I can't think of another city that has the amount of coaches that we had over the years and still continue to have, who are so dedicated to their sport. And they know it's not all about winning. I mean, you're gonna lose some, and you're gonna win some. But it's amazing, you know, when I tell people that back when your dad played for RFA, probably the third string on that RFA football team could have been the first string at any other school. That's how good the depth was back then, and that was brought up through the program, through the JVs, the freshmen with Coach Ryan and Coach Bruce. Just a bunch of great guys, dedicated their lives to their sports and their students, still receiving accolades and the respect from the people.
And we got a comment from Gabrielle Vaccaro, says, being inducted was one of the highlights of my father's life. Thanks to all who were involved. Her father was another good one.
Ray Vaccaro was a hell of a coach. He was my Little League coach. He was not easy. I made Little League when I was 9 years old, and back then there was no minimum. You get 3 innings to play in 1 at bat, so you sat on the bench. And it was interesting that there was a game, and I played for Optimist Club, and we were getting hammered, and I can't remember who it was, but we ran out of pitchers. And he says, "Can anybody else pitch?" And I raised my hand. I had never pitched in Little League, but I could throw the ball. So I got up there and I pitched, and my first pitch, first batter I faced was Gary Colangelo, the retired policeman. Well, I hit him in the leg. The next ball, I hit the front of home plate and it bounced over the backstop. After that, I settled down and I started striking out. So then Ray gave me my shot as a pitcher rather than playing, you know, left field or right field or something. But just, I mean, baseball, Pop Warner football back then. Mm-hmm. 1959. St. John's, all the parishes had football teams in the Pop Warner League. It was the Dominic Savio League. My brother played on St. John's. 1959, they went 10-0. They went down to Valley Stream, Long Island to play a team that was pretty well loaded. My brother tells me the morning of the game, 10 o'clock, Ray Vaccaro's got his team out there practicing. They have a game like at 1 o'clock. He says, we're already running full scrimmage practice and everything. Well, Rome ended up beating them. And when they came back into Rome that night, I can remember because I was with my dad. The bus got a police escort and a fire truck escort. And they went through downtown and they're blowing the horns, and it was a big thing back then. But that's how far back, you know, I go with Ray. And Gabe, I know Gabe and I just spoke the other day at the Hall of Fame. He dropped off some items. But
Dave, you know what types of arguments and conversation, and they're fun arguments, is that.
Yes.
You know, when people try to debate teams, you know, what teams were the best in football or basketball, you know, baseball. And
sure,
I'm kind of biased because I always say that I played on a team that went the furthest to the state championship game. But my dad always says, you know, back then they didn't have the state playoffs and all that. We probably would have had so many more state championships. Yep. And I say that's the fun part. But I said we're different. When I went to college and I said I was from Rome, everybody knew where I played at. They said,
Yes.
"You played up at RFA, right?" And I'm talking kids that were from Florida, Texas, Ohio. When you said Rome, they knew it was RFA. But those are good arguments to have and good debates.
Sure, sure. And back then, when your dad played, if I remember right, I think there was a 3-year span under Coach Bruce and his assistants. They went 24-0.
Yep, they didn't lose a game.
They didn't lose a game. Unbelievable.
No, I can openly say I never lost a game on the old turf, and I played varsity as a 9th grader. Never lost a home game on that field. My sister in field hockey, who they won a state championship under Linda Harjong.
Right, back in '94.
Yep, she never lost a game. So my family had good ties on that old field. We never lost a game on there. But Dave, I want to ask you. You were talking about the reception dinner, and it's a great dinner. It's a great awards ceremony. You have the awards banquet. You honored teams, the Bill Coughlin Award. Talk to us a little bit about you said the Frank Clark Service Award. Talk to us a little bit about the awards at the banquet.
Okay. Well, Frank was a longtime member of the Rome Sports Hall of Fame. He was the former engineer for the city of Rome. If you went to Frank and you had a question, he never had to go to the plans because it was all up here. He could tell you where the water line was, the gas line, everything. He was that type of guy. Very well liked, very instrumental in getting the Hall of Fame started also. So they decided years ago that they would name an award after him. There's probably been, I want to say, service award, including me. And I remember.
We lost Dave. Dave's having some internet issues. See if we can get him back one more time to wrap up. I do want him to talk a little bit about the 2020 class that'll be going in next year. And it is a fantastic class, as they're always good classes. But the next year's class will be Kelvin Griggs, who is an outstanding football player here at RFA. Mike Orbinati. He was a lineman on played here at RFA too. Of course, they're all Roman. So, Coach Phyllis Nemai, the gymnastics coach, J.R. Purrington, he was a hockey star, and how about Joe Ryan Jr. Going in as a contributor? Let me see. There's Dave. Let's see. There you are. I've got back you again. Yep, we got you.
Okay.
Yep, we got you.
I apologize.
Nope, that's okay. So I was talking to the group, and we can get back into the reception piece too, and you can go through it. I was talking, we can get in at the end here, just talk about the 2020 class. It's a great class. But let's go back and finish up the banquet.
Okay. Frank Clark Service Award is given to volunteers. For 2020, it's going to Terry Call, who was down the road national for many years, and then she switched over to Capitai and did a lot for them. The other one is Tim Hogan, who's the engineer, who is also receiving it. It's interesting about the banquet. We started in 1977 with two honorees, Bill Keating and Bill Valentine. And I would say probably there was maybe 15 people in our 2018 banquet. We had 335 people. I'm anticipating a large crowd next year because of the teams that are going in.
Hey Dave, I'm getting a little bit of an echo. Do you have the mic on the laptop? I'm getting a little bit of an echo as you're talking. It might be an internet.
Is that any better?
It's a little bit.
I'm getting a delay.
Yeah, it looks like I'm getting an echo on your end here. I don't know if the internet where you're at, the signal might be low, but all right, we'll try him one more time. Looks like he's having a bit of internet problems, but as he was talking and I was saying before here is the 2020 class, Joe Ryan, fantastic. Joe knows all the Rome sports. Many remember Joe as the Rome Observer on Sundays, but Joe was a great coach as well. His sons were all great athletes. Ryan Williams was a three-sport star. And then the 1981 RFA football team was getting the Ellie Bruce Award for the exceptional team. And then the Frank Clark Service Award was going to be Terry Call and Tim Hogan, honored for their involvement in youth sports. So great class again. They'll be going in next year due to the COVID stuff this year. Let me just see if Dave's going to dial in one more time. Let's see if we can get him here, if it's any better. Let's see, Dave. Let's see if that's any better.
Got me?
Yes, we got you.
Okay, how's that? Any better?
It's a little bit of a delay on your end, but
It's a little bit of a delay.
I can see you though.
Yeah, I can hear the background noise.
Yeah, it looks like we got it echo. All right. Well, I apologize for that. I think Dave was having some internet problems on the back end, so we'll cut it there. I apologize. We'll have to see if we can get Dave on another time. But check out the Rome Sports Hall of Fame right down by Erie Canal Village on Rome New London Road. Next week on the show, I'll talk to Douglas Jonathan Leonard, the owner at Wisp Baking Company down on Franklin Square in Utica. Fantastic place. Reach out to me if you know a business owner, you know an athlete or a coach or anybody that wants to come on and tell me about their story. I'll be more than happy to schedule them here on the Rock Pile into November. So just make sure you remember that. Continue to follow me all across social media. I'll make sure I share this show tonight. And as I say every Wednesday night on the Rock Pile is where dreams become reality. I'm out, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the week.